everyone, it's Sharana from Payorwait, and today I'm going to be reviewing and recapping Power Book 2, Ghost Season 3, Episode 6, Land of Lies. And speaking of lies, y'all, okay? Why y'all open this episode with Diana and Celine? You know they ain't got no chemistry. And when she was like, that was amazing. Yes, Land of Lies, because nothing about that looks amazing to me. I want Diana to just be free. Be free as Celine. Okay, and I hope that as what we see transpires over the course of this episode, that is going to be true. But I don't know who in the writer's room really sat up here and thought that y'all was going to try to convince us that Celine and Diana have any sort of attraction to one another. But on top of that, that Diana will really date somebody who gives me like low-key Hotep vibes, especially in that whole discussion when they were talking about how those who wrote the Declaration of Independence talk about the, land of the free, when of course these people had slaves, and he was like, they were African enslaved people. I was like, baby, like, you right, but also too, she right too. I was just like, it's giving me a little Hotep. It's just giving me like a little dash, like a little tinge of Hotep for me, okay? But we see that all the kids, they end up getting this phone call from Monet where she tells them that, their father has died. So we know at the end of last week's episode that Monet basically set everything in motion for Gordo to kill Lorenzo, but the kids don't know that yet. And like Ghost Lorenzo said, because now at this point, he's just going to be the new ghost. It's clear the kids aren't going to forgive Monet once they realize what has actually happened. But I do like the discussion in the class when they talked about how the media picks and chooses, the narrative that it wants to run, especially when it comes to people who look like me. I like that they had that conversation and kind of going back and forth. They were real disrespectful for talking about Diana Daddy like that. I was like, dang, can he even get in the grave before y'all start talking about this man? Just very disrespectful, okay? But one of the things that I do appreciate every single week is how they tie in these conversations to tie into the greater theme of what's happening in Power, but most importantly, how it relates to what's happening in present time, in the real world outside of the Ghost Power universe, whatever they call it, okay? So let's talk about Monet. So Monet's looking at Lorenzo's body, she identifying it. I was like, Monet, you're not gonna shed a tear, like you're not gonna try to act like you care that this man was killed, like you just gonna look like you annoyed like you do every single episode. I guess that's what she's going to do. But after she ends up telling the kids what's happened, they have a meeting. Drew thinks this was the Russians because of course they had the whole botch thing where they took out the Russian Connect in order to work with Gordo and his brothers. But of course we know, Monet knows it's not the Russians. She's trying to tell them to chill out. But of course, even it doesn't make sense to them that, why wouldn't we be going after the person who is responsible for killing our father? But Monet is like, hey, we ain't got no bodies to be sent up here going at war with the Russians. That's not good either. So we see that Monet's having a conversation with Kane, and she hands Kane Lorenzo's life insurance policy. And so basically she tells him, like, you got to step up now. You got to figure out how we're going to keep this money clean. But Kane was like, hold on now, like, just last week, girl, you wasn't upset about Lorenzo. You was asking all these extra questions. What was IG doing the night of Zeke's death? Kind of like you was looking at Lorenzo like he had something to do with it, okay? So she was like, Beesh, if I knew he did it, then why you sitting up here walking around? Yeah, that's right, because I know you was sitting up there holding your daddy's little secrets, okay? But I didn't bust no cap up in you. So then he kind of looking crazy, and I'm like, she kind of got a point, though. But what sent me, I'm sorry, wait. Why did Monet tell Kay, like, you need to stop putting two, wait, I can't even get it, wait. She said, you need to stop putting two and two together because your dumb ass always ends up with 5. I said, Monet, why do you be dragging your kids like this? That line was so funny that it looked like Kane, Woody. It's like he couldn't even keep a straight face when she said that line to him, because I was dying. I was just like, Monet, why do you disrespect your kids like this every single day? Whoever wrote that line, she said, you can stop putting two and two together. I'm sorry. It's not that funny, but it is funny. I'm sorry. Kudos to the writers for that line, okay? It almost makes up for the foolishness between Diana and Celine. Almost. Not enough. But kudos to whoever wrote that line, because that gave me a little tickle that I needed that tickle today. I needed that today. So we see that later in the funeral, I love that they had a black opera singer, and she had nails, and she had the red hair. I was like, yes, okay. I was here for every single moment of it. So we see that, you know, Kane takes Lorenzo's chain. He's like, I'm gonna honor your legacy. I'm gonna do right by you. Diana was just boo-hooing with this eulogy child. I was like, okay, girl, just let it out. I know your daddy was the only one that really loved you, but girl, get it together. I know what y'all thinking, like, Sharona, her daddy died. I know. I'm just saying. I ain't gonna lie, when my daddy died, they had to carry me out of the funeral because I was boo-hooing so hard. So I was probably triggered by Diana. That's all, you know, just making laughter out of being triggered. But, so, Monet, when she walked in with that Chanel scarf, though, that scarf was tough. Kane's jacket was tough, too. Like, whoever be doing the costume design for Power, like, they really be getting it. I be like, can y'all go ahead and post this on your thing so I can know where I need to be buying this stuff? I know I can't afford it. I damn sure know I can't afford that Chanel scarf. But, you know, a girl would love to dream. At least make a vision board. You know, just something, all right? But we see that Jenny and Blanca, they're at Lorenzo's funeral. And that's when we dive into Diana, we know that they placed that camera after Lauren snitched because they was only feeding her spam. She didn't have no other choice but to snitch on everybody so she can get a hot cooked meal. So basically, they catch Diana on camera, and so they're going to basically be pressing up on Diana in the next couple of weeks to try to get her to flip, to get some information so they can take Tariq, Monet, the whole organization out. But I was really confused, y'all. This is when we get into these random, like, plot holes of the show that the writing just don't be making sense with what's happening. So if they were at her funeral, if Jenny and Blanca was at the funeral, okay? So after Drew did what he did, and we'll talk about that a little later, what I was highly confused about, y'all, what didn't make any sense is y'all at this funeral, you got somebody from the DEA, District Attorney's Office, the Russians pull up, they start shooting, everybody else pull out their guns and they start shooting back. And I was just kind of confused how, like, the po-pos, like, when it's like a criminal, you know, this big criminal funeral, y'all don't have po-pos, like, on standby for stuff like this to happen. Like, I didn't see no police. I didn't see no reactions from Blanca, no reactions from Jenny. Like, none of that made sense to me whatsoever. Maybe it was just me. Maybe I'm overthinking it. But then I'm not overthinking it because y'all getting so, like, getting a hard on for trying to take them out. I feel like y'all got a shootout. Why you shooting out with the Russians? Like, how you got these guns? Haven't made sense for me. I don't know. Maybe that was just me. But they end up doing the shootout. And then Kane gets mad at Drew because he like, why the Russians rolling up on us? And then Monet basically sides with Drew, which is like the exact same thing that like Kane and Lorenzo was doing. So I don't know why Monet thinks that this is going to be okay. But the smirk that Drew had on his face when he looked at Kane, like, and what? Now what? You rocking daddy, peace. But I'm the number one. I was like, okay, Drew, like, you just be doing a lot of times. I want you to just go get your back blown out because I feel like you just got a lot of anger up inside of you right now that you need to release in some way, shape, or form. But let's go ahead and talk about Diana, child. Let's talk about Diana. So they start off this episode with this foolish sex scene between Salim and Diana, and I don't know how much longer they're going to force them down our throats, but it just don't even make sense, okay? And then what I'm confused about is Salim is sitting up here asking questions about, like, he was like at the repast, and he was like, dang, it's a lot of people down there. Are they all family? And I'm just like, is now the time for you to be sitting up here asking questions? Then you calling him a criminal? And even Diana had to get booked. Like, I know you're not sitting up here in my daddy's house calling my daddy no criminal at his repast. Like, I know that's not what you're doing. Like, don't get it twisted. I know that's not what you're doing. So he was basically just like, maybe you need to, like, he was like, you got to get out of this. Like, you need to leave this. This isn't safe. And I was like, sir, I get it. However, not the time. Her daddy just died. So she got mad. She went off on him. She was like, get the F out. And if you need help, I can ask my brothers. And I was like, hold on, Celine. You don't want her brothers to come get you, okay? But then I was like, Diana, you probably should have been busting it open for Celine in the first place and you wouldn't be in this predicament. I said, I'm not going to get upset about this. I said, I'm not going to get upset about this, okay? So after the repast, she goes home. I guess she starts drinking with her friends. And this is another point where I get confused. So Tariq comes over, everybody leave and walk out. As they're walking out, they run into Salim. And they was like, oh, she busy. And he was like, I know she want to see me. And I said, Salim, Are you sure about that? It's like the writers didn't realize that previously in the episode she had literally just cursed this man out because he was talking about her dead daddy. Like he wasn't even cold in the grave yet. I didn't understand. Like why was that the type of language that was used? But also too with Celine, you're her TA. You're technically a teacher. Why are you talking to her classmates about how I know she ain't in there with no other dude? And because you're her TA and you can be fired. So I'm still highly confused as to why he would be so comfortable talking to her friends about how he blowing them cheeks out. So I'm just, the math just don't be mathing sometimes. And sometimes I just be wanting the writer's room to have it make sense for me. I didn't know that her classmates knew. Like he could literally be fired. Did we not watch what happened between Carrie and Zeke last season? I'm just uncomfortable. I'm surprised he still didn't even go to the door. Like, I felt like he was going to go to the door, how crunk he was talking about. I know she ain't in there with no other dude. I love how they laughed at him, too, because it's like, boy, you sound foolish. Like, go on somewhere. So, Tariq talking to her, he asked her, can she basically, like, you know, help run the business and you know, sell to the Ivies of what Effie's job was. And she was just like, you know, my dad, one of the last things he said is that he didn't want me a part of this, and I want to honor that. Then she kissed him. This will also send me back. She kissed Tariq. And then she was like, what about you and Effie? I said, well, damn, bitch, shouldn't you be asking yourself the same question? How you going to ask Tariq after you kissed him, like, what about Effie? Obviously, you don't give a damn about Effie because you sat up here and kissed this dude that you knew was with somebody else. And then shouldn't you be mad at Tariq for, like, playing you to the side anyway and choosing not Effie, but Lauren, too, over you? Once again, Diana, I know you're hurting, girl. I know you hurting. Okay, I've been there. I know you hurting, but Tariq will be the last person that I will be busting it open for right now. The last person on this planet that I will be busting up before, but of course she busted open. You know, they got it on, and then Effie popped up her door the next day like, hey girl, like I know we was beefing before because I took your man, but you know, let's go ahead and run this business together. She come up with this whole little spiel, and she was like, nah, I'm not doing that. She was like, well, you just can't tell Tariq. Then she opened the door, and he was like, hey, Effie. And I was like, Tariq's so cold-blooded, but I was totally here for that entire scene. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about Kane and Drew. Gordo goes to see Drew at the bar, and basically Drew asks him, like, hey, ride out with me on the Russians because my family doesn't want to do it. He agrees to it. I guess he's agreeing to it because it takes the heat off of him that he had anything to do with it. So they go do their little thing, kill old dude, which bring the smoke, so now they're going to be at war. But we see that Kane goes to talk to Brayden because he needs Brayden to, you know, do something with the money from the life insurance in order to make sure that the money is clean. But he tells him, like, you can't do this until you figure out what you need to do to get back in with Tariq. Like, it don't even make sense how you let Tariq just kick you out of the business that you helped start like that. That didn't even make sense. He told him to nut up, get it together. But I got confused when I saw the dude Kai. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I'm going to tell the truth because I had to ask my friend. I thought that was Shamik Moore at first. Because I was like, dang, this dude looks so familiar, but where do I know him from? I know it's from something black. But then I didn't realize that was the dude from the wood until my friend tried to drag me. And I was like, okay, but real talk though. You don't think they look alike? You don't feel like both of them look alike? It's just me? Fine, whatever. But Kai was like, hey, it don't make no sense that y'all sitting up here now trying to figure out who took out your daddy. It's making y'all look weak. But then he looking at Monet like, oh, it look like she need to show her the crown. I was like, dang, Kai, like you finna talk all this stuff up in their house during the repast? Like, you just don't care like that? Like, no F's given? All right. I guess Kai gonna be a problem later on. But we see that Kane finally gets his wish. Effie and Tariq have broken up. He even leaves his funeral, his dad's funeral, to go check on Effie and then make sure that she's okay. Now, Effie was going to blow it up. And I was like, sis, y'all got a lot of crazy people that's coming after y'all. Like, I don't know why you was going to be doing all of this. You was going to blow up the whole coffee thing. And then Kane was like, hold on now, girl, hold on. You trying to kill all of us over Tariq? Absolutely not. So it's clear that he's going to slide her drugs so she can basically move them and still make her money. But it's clear that Kane and Effie are going to get together. I feel like they've been foreshadowing that for a very long time now. So who knows what's going to happen between them. But let's go ahead and talk about Lauren, who was snitching because they was feeding her spam. So Lauren wakes up we see that she went to her parents' home prior to, going to meet up with Tariq. And Jenny comes and, finds her. And she was just like, did you tell anybody else that you were alive? And she was like, no. And I was like, no, this bitch lying. But she told her no. And so she's trying to convince her to, like, come back and help her with the case. But she was like, I want to talk to Saxe first. So she started talking to Saxe, and then Saxe basically was like, Tariq's a bad person, and he talks about all the things that Tariq has done, but she doesn't really believe him, but kind of believes him, and so he's basically trying to get her to testify against Tariq and put Tariq in jail as well. So that's pretty much all that's going on with her. Clearly, she's going to be snitching later on, and I'm just like, all of this could have been avoided if somebody would have just gave Jenny... if Jenny would have gave Lauren a hot meal. Like, I think I would be snitching too if somebody was feeding me Spam. I probably could have survived off the sardines, but you giving me some Spam? No, ma'am. So, let's talk about Saxe. Saxe shows Davis that Lorenzo was murdered and killed. Murdered and killed. Murdered. Why does Davis say, oh, that's a nice picture of him? Sir, that's not... What? Huh? That didn't make sense. So Davis asks Saxe about, is there an investigation into Lauren's death? But he lies and says no. But he tells him, like, his brother's health isn't doing too well, so they need to get him out ASAP. And so Saxe comes up with the idea to go to Rashad Tate and have Tate basically use Davis's brother, like, basically as a way to win his election, about how he's going to help, stop the city from, putting innocent men behind bars. And he's going to use his brother as his case. And he says, but I need something from you. And so he was like, okay, here my watch. And he was like, sir, don't nobody want that little raggedy watch? I need Davis to run a smear campaign on my opponent so I can stay clean. And so they can basically talk about him, and he agrees to that. But then Jenny from the block pop up on him. He like, hold on, I don't mess with you no more. And then she was like, who you calling a hoe? That ain't what he said, but that's what he should have said to her. Because then she's sitting up here talking about, if you ain't gonna help me, then I'm just gonna basically tell him about how you were at Truth with a gun the night that James St. Patrick was murdered. And he was like, well, I'd be damned. And I was like, ooh, Jenny, you cold-blooded. So he basically ends up having to still help her, or he's basically going to be implicated in Ghost's murder. So we see that, actually, let's just talk about Tariq. I talked about Diana. Okay, yeah, we're going to talk. No, I didn't talk about Diana. Let me talk about Diana dumb behind real quick. Okay, so I just didn't understand. Diana goes up looking like the most suspicious person on this planet, like looking over her shoulder, looking back and forth after they had the whole interaction with Tariq, and she gave it up to him because he gave her, advice on how to do her dad's eulogy. She go put the bricks in the damn locker on the rooftop, but remember, Lauren was snitching about the rooftop because they didn't give her no food, and so they have the camera now and a picture of her, which I just I don't understand why Diana is as dumb as she is. It just don't make no sense to me. But we see that Davis ends up telling Monet that the feds, they got the Russians, they're safe for now. But then we see, Ghost Lorenzo warning Monet, hey, if kids find out what happened, they gonna never forgive you. And I was just like, her kids barely like her right now. So, I don't see, how that's a crazy foreshadowing, but teach his own. But let's talk about Tariq, because Tariq going through it. So he, after finding out the bombshell that Lauren's alive and Effie and Brady has something to do with it, when he wakes up the next day, Effie's like, are you good? I'm trying to figure out where Effie got this little lingerie outfit from. He's like, I'm fine. He was quiet. And then Effie sees that, Lorenzo's dead. She kind of asks Tariq, did you have something to do about this? Did you know about it? He was like, no. And then she was like, it looks like you seen a ghost. And I was like, well, it ain't the ghost that you think he done seen. He saw the ghost of Lauren. But we see that he catches up with Brayden, and he put them paws on Brayden. He didn't even let my man get a word in. He was beating his ass, okay? He was beating his ass, and he had to stop after he kind of snitched on Effie about how Kane was the one who found out because of Effie. So he takes Effie on this getaway, and then he tells her, what he did to his dad, and then he asks her, I don't want any secrets. Is there anything you want to tell me? And then she ends up telling a story about how her mom was dating this guy, and he ended up sexually abusing her, and then she ended up marrying him. So I'm actually starting to believe this conspiracy theory that Effie is actually Noma's daughter. And I think that it would make sense on why Noma was so, okay with killing him. But also, too, I feel like Tariq has caught on to this tidbit that Effie is her daughter because he wants to use her as a pawn. So we see that he ends up taking her to the spot where she realizes that they're at the spot where she threw Lauren in the river. He asked her, like, you sure ain't nothing you want to tell me? He tell her, get out the car. She's still sitting up here trying to play dumb. And I'm like, girl, what is you playing dumb for still? So he says, I'm not going to kill you because I loved you. And so basically he ends up leaving her there and she got to find her own way home. So there's definitely trouble in paradise. But we see that Effie ends up calling Brayden. They get into an argument. I don't know why she called him Bieber, but they get into it because he was like, you sent a percentage of Kane. That's what got us into this whole predicament in the first place. And so we see Kane so Effie called Brayden Bieber. Kane called Brayden Ben Affleck because he was like, where Ben Affleck and Effie at? And I was just like, is Brayden ever going to catch a break between y'all? So Tariq tells them that they've been locked out, and so he was just like, we need everybody. We can't do this by ourselves. Now Tariq is starting to get beside himself when he's like, we the one who do all the work. And I was like, that's not actually true because Brayden came up with course correct. Like, he came up with this whole idea with this stuff at the fun. Like, I don't understand. Effie built the whole, system for the coffee stuff. So I don't know why you're getting beside yourself, Tariq, saying that you can do all this stuff by yourself. So I like how Tariq has a run-in with his grandmother when he goes to Raina's grave. And so basically she was like, oh, so you can't trust nobody. Maybe do you think it's because you reap what you sow? Like, you've done all these terrible things to the people that care about you, people that love you, including myself. This is why you feel alone. And so she says, like, you're going down the same path as your father. You lie just like your dad lies. And that's the biggest insult to Tariq because we know how much he hates his father. And the last thing that he wants to do is become anything like his father. But the more that he continues to find himself in business with people like Noma, like, the closer he's getting into building himself an early grave. And when she makes that comment, like, you're going to end up right next to your father, he was like, that's probably fact right there. You probably not lying. So, she confronts him like, you took everything away from me. I don't have your sister. She's dead. I come here every week. Outside of you getting me stuck in rehab, I don't have your mother. I don't have Yas. I don't have anybody. And so he makes things right. He says that he's going to run off with her, but Noma's man captures him. So he decides to, basically send his grandmother with Yas and his mom, Tasha. And so at least she's okay for now. And they can't keep threatening that they're going to kill her because now she's in, witness protection at this point in time. So he realizes that Noma's men has been following him. They're going to be watching him even more closely. And basically tell him everybody has to be in the business. Like, you can't be kicking nobody out. What's going to happen? I don't know. But I don't know how things are going to work between Effie and Tariq still having to work together. If Kane is going to try to come up with something with Effie to take Tariq out, because Kane just been waiting on the day that he can go ahead and ice Tariq out. So I don't know what's going to happen. But him and Brayden, they end up making up after Brayden kicks him out of, going to work. And I was just like, yeah, Tariq, you keep saying that you don't need nobody, but you still do need Brayden. So they end up eventually making up, but they both agree that they have to find a way to get from under Noma and her men. So I don't know what's going to happen, but it's clear that the rest of this season is going to be the kids ended up finding out what actually happened to their father, who was actually behind it, and what does that mean for Drew when he realizes that Gordo is the one who did it. What is Kane and Effie going to come up with? Because I'm pretty sure that they're going to be going against Brayden, Diana, and Tariq. I don't know what the hell's going to happen, but I'm here for it. Like, let's just keep these episodes going. I really like where we're going with this. I feel like we're getting somewhere. Just so sorry to Sax, because I know his feelings was really hurt about Jenny, especially when she basically said, I'm going to implicate you in a murder if you don't keep helping me. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I like how we're setting things up. Be very interesting to see how these last couple of episodes plays out. But yeah, overall, it's a decent episode. The only reason I still have issues is the whole thing with Celine, the whole thing at the funeral. That just don't make sense to me. And these are like the little moments where I just be like, do we be thinking things through? Do we just be doing stuff for the sake of doing it and I'm just supposed to ignore it? Or do I have to apply common sense to it? I don't know. Let me know in the comment section below. Did you catch on to those two things? What did you think about this week's episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What are your theories? Do you feel like Effie is a child of Noma? Let me know in the comment section below. What were your thoughts? But as always, my name is Sharona from payorwait, and if you like what you saw today, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends, and make sure you hit that notification bell. And I love you guys 3000. And until I see you again, Bye.